Welcome everyone to the 2020 APAC Groundbreakers Virtual Tour by Apaco UC. This year our event will be the biggest one ever done with 174 sessions, including normal sessions, workshops, and hands-on labs from 123 different speakers over 11 days. Also, it will cover sessions on 4 different languages. Please remember to register to as many sessions you can. Because you will be able to watch the replays of each sessions for 2 weeks after the initial session date and time. You can also be able to interact with the speaker at any time during that 2 weeks by posting questions or comments directly in the playbacks page. I would like to say thanks to our Oracle user groups and Java user groups that made this event possible, and also to our sponsors, Oracle Groundbreakers and CloudDB. Now for today's session, Cloud Native Integration Solutions with Oracle Cloud by Sven Bernhardt. Hopefully I pronounce your last name properly, Sven. Please feel free to write questions at any time by using the Q&A option of Zoom webinar, and Sven will be answering our questions at the end of the session. If you have any technical issues or anything that you want to talk with me as the moderator, I'm Francisco, please use the chat option. Q&A to ask questions to the speaker, chat to speak with the moderator. Now, without any more delays, I would like to leave you with this amazing session by Sven Bernhardt. Sven, you are ready to go. I'm going to put myself in mute.
Thank you, Francisco. Yeah, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. As Francisco said, I'm Sven Bernhardt. I wanted to talk to you about this topic, Cloud Native Integration Solutions with Oracle Cloud. Few words about me. I'm a chief architect working for Opitz Consulting, a German Oracle partner. We're in the market for about 30 years now, and I'm working on our customer projects currently in the area of creating modern architectures based on at most cloud native principles. I'm very deep into the API management topic, and historically I started my professional career with integration and building SOA solutions on Oracle SOA Suite, I think 14 years ago. So I have a strong integration background, and this is why this topic is so important for me, and was there all my professional career until now. And what I noticed is that the requirements which are around these days slightly changed from that we had 7 years, 8 years ago when we implemented those SOA-based solutions. And within this presentation, I wanted to motivate to share my thoughts about how integration solutions should be built today, and which kind of requirements you should be able to tackle with a certain integration architecture, with a modern integration architecture. So basically, why do we need to care about integration? Integration is when I started, it was just about let system A speak to system B. They have different dialects, find some kind of translation between those two systems, between those dialects, and ensure that they can communicate with each other. But today, this definition is no longer valid, or it has changed slightly, because as it is stated on the slide, we need to ensure that data is where it is needed, when it is needed, and in the form in which is it needed. This is slightly different from the simple definition I did before, because maybe you have different consumers for the same set of data, and also those consumers have different requirements with respect to the data. So you need to provide maybe the data into different formats. You need maybe apply patterns like CQRS to have a different write and a different read model and all that kind of stuff. And you need to keep that in mind when you build solutions. And integration, from my perspective, is very essential for everything what we do today, especially with respect to digitalization. Yeah, to also be able to dissolve data silos. When we come to our customers, we oftentimes see that there is an IT system landscape with different data silos that are not integrated with each other. And there's also no integration platform in place. So analyzing the data or bring the data together and get value out of the data, which is owned by a certain company, is not possible. And it's also not possible to introduce new concepts like artificial intelligence or machine learning, because you have those distributed data silos which have no clue about each other. And that's a problem, because you wanted to work with the data. You wanted to maybe get value out of the data, and maybe in a further step wanted to provide this data as a service to the outside world, to partners, to customers, and as such establish new business models, right? And this means that we move from a more project-driven world over to a product-driven application world. So we wanted to get rid of those monolithic applications that support different business functions within a certain business domain, because if you have that, we see this red friend which has interdependencies to different business functions and to different business domains. If you have that, you have a problem when you should change your monolithic application, because there's no clear ownership, neither from a technical perspective nor from a business perspective. And if you have some kind of digital product and maybe you implement it as a autonomous microservice, then you have a clear ownership from a technical perspective and also from a business perspective. And to achieve that, so that we can break up those monolithic applications, integration is quite essential, because you will definitely not do a big bang replacement of your monolith. You will be better with the way to crunch this monolith into smaller parts, to have independent, maybe also independent deployment unit, to be to ensure an agility and flexibility with respect also from implementation technology, right? So what is integration about today? If I look into the integration solutions we built until now, oftentimes we started with a monolithic middleware platform, which is the basis for built integration solutions. So where we connect different sources to different targets, where we provide services for different clients or consumers. And most of the time we implemented that using some sort of ESB solution like Oracle Service Bus or something like that. And as I said before, I implemented a lot of SOA style application architectures, and the ideas of SOA are still valid. But with SOA, we had some things which made it hard to implement, because there was a lot of discussions upfront before we really getting things implemented. So we had to care about the data model, because data model and reusable services was one of the key concepts within SOA style application architecture. So canonical data model should ensure that we have one single data model which we can use all over our enterprise. And to be honest, I've never seen a canonical data model implemented properly, because it takes a lot of time to establish a canonical data model, to have a harmonized data model all over the enterprise, right? This was very hard to achieve, but ideas like interoperability, standard-based interfaces, and loose coupling are still valid today, right? And also the integration patterns we used to integrate different systems, which is also still valid, like publish, subscribe, patterns like message translator, like aggregator, like splitter, and all that kind of stuff. They are still valid and need still to be implemented when I wanted to build a proper integration solution. But what we were focusing on was system-to-system integration mainly. So let two systems talk to each other. And we leveraged those monolithic platforms, which means that we need to understand the underlying infrastructure. As we can see here, this gray box is the ESB infrastructure, which is most of the time very complex. So yeah, for example, in the case of Oracle Service Bus, you had a WebLogic infrastructure underneath. You need to understand the whole WebLogic stack. You need to understand how the Service Bus as such works to implement the solutions properly, and to not fall into any traps. And the integration logic you need to implement is just a small piece of cake, like as you can see here, right? But you need to be an expert on this platform, and you also have sort of limited possibilities from a technology perspective of choice to use to implement a certain integration solution. So what we need to rethink today is, do we really need those monolithic platforms for implementing solutions because we have different requirements? Maybe we need more flexibility also. And is it really everything just about system-to-system integration, or is there more? So first of all, I have to say that we have new technologies and concepts arising in a very, very high frequency today. This wasn't the case 7-8 years back, but today we nearly daily have new technologies, new frameworks, new ideas how we can do implementation of specific things more efficient, how we can operate our solutions more efficiently. And we also need to care about more topics. So we need to address the cloud. We need to address security. Security is more present than ever. So when you start a new project or new implementation, security should be part of the architecture ideas from the very first beginning, and not a third-class citizen which is applied after the implementation has been done, right? Because this was the case years before. Security was always some kind of third-class citizen, and you shouldn't do that. And another problem with those platforms like the ESB solutions was that ESB was seen as some kind of a big hammer, and every problem looks like a nail, right? So we used our big hammer to nail the problem down, to nail it to the wall, to be able to put a picture on it and all that kind of stuff. So even if you have a screw, we took the hammer, which is of course not very efficient to do, because you need something else, but not the hammer. But the hammer is there. So why should you care about taking another tool, right? And this is the same, and the same discussions we always had with customers. For example, why should we use an API gateway if we have an ESB in place? We can just use our ESB solution to expose our services to the outside world. Yes, you can do that, but maybe it's not the best way to do it and not the most efficient way to do it. Yeah, this causes, and this is also part of the problem and part of the challenges when you come to the customer side with the integration solutions implemented today. So as you can see, the integration discipline is also very complex, because you have to deal with different challenges with respect to communication protocols, data serialization formats. You have different data structures, and sometimes also unclear semantics if you wanted to integrate systems with each other, especially if you have legacy systems. You may not know about the semantics of the data. Maybe there is also no proper documentation and all that kind of stuff. Another problem is that you have uneven distribution of data volumes from system A to system B, and also that you have different SLAs with respect to the systems. Because if you have a system which can produce a lot of messages in a short amount of time, but the target system is not able to consume all this data in the same time, then you have a problem. Then you need to introduce patterns like back pressure and all that kind of stuff to not flood the target system and bring it down. So this is also this needs also to be taken into account today, and it always needs to be taken into account also for 7 years before, right? But as I said, with respect to the direction, do we really only need to care about system-to-system integration? So this would be the horizontal integration arrow here. It is more, because so with at least with the introduction of mobile devices, we also need to care about this vertical integration, because you have different requirements on the horizontal level and on the vertical level. On the horizontal level, it's perfectly fine to have a time delay. So you maybe do not have requirements for near real-time integration. So you can oftentimes systems in the back office do have batch interfaces. So you have a data exchange based on files, for example. So exporting a file once a day and importing it to the other system. So you have a delay of synchronization. This is perfectly fine from a horizontal integration perspective, but not on a vertical integration perspective, where you need near real-time feedback for the user, because no user who uses an app wanted to wait for 1 or 2 hours for a response from a certain system. So you have other requirements with respect to the SLAs. Next, you have also challenges with respect to the cloud, because today the world is hybrid. So you need to consider this when building integration solutions, which makes it more complicated. Before, the world was easy, just implement your integration solution on-prem, and that's it. Maybe you need to connect to a certain cloud system like Salesforce, but this is more an exception and not a rule. Today, you maybe have more cloud services or more SaaS systems which you use, and maybe you have also parts of your infrastructure already in the cloud, but you need also your on-premise solutions. So how to deal with that. So you have to deal with that, having a on-premise integration platform still, and maybe also build another integration platform in the cloud, and then connect those two integration platforms with each other. And this introduces additional complexity, because you must be able to make calls from the cloud to your on-premise data center. This is also a security issue, maybe. So you have to talk to your security guys if this is okay, and what are the requirements to make this with the company rules, right? So some architectural considerations from when you look at the requirements to modern integration solutions. I already said that we need some kind of expert knowledge to be able to implement integration solutions on those stacks like Oracle Service Bus or IBM WebSphere-based integration solutions. But from today's perspective, this is hard to get the people trained on that stack, because people are scared away by the complexity of the platform. And it takes years to build up the knowledge for these certain platforms. At least this is what is my impression, and what I learned in my career until now. So integration solutions should be lightweight today and should be easy to implement. So from my perspective, every Java developer should be able to implement integration services just by getting to know about the respective patterns which should be used. You should also have the freedom of choice with respect to the implementation technology, because maybe some integration problems can be better addressed with a different implementation language than Java, or I don't know, or a different framework, or maybe also be addressed by new concepts like function as a service or serverless implementations and all that kind of stuff. You also must be able to address dynamic workloads, so to also be able to cover peak loads, to scale out or scale up dynamically, right? And you must be able to have this capability to scale nearly unlimited, right? And this is something which is quite hard if you are on those traditional monolithic integration platforms. So we need a new way to implement those solutions. So, and some of the postulates you see here, and those postulates we take into account if we build new solutions for our customers, because most of the time also customers do not have a clear idea what they wanted to have, and so we support them. Few of them I already mentioned, and one important thing from my perspective is that we should build integration solutions also with cloud native principles in mind. So because the world is hybrid, and the world will be, and partly already is, multi-cloud, and we need to address that. And we also need to think, as I said, security from the very first beginning when designing applications, and also take into account that we have to deal with multi-dimensional, multi-layered problems in the integration space. So from my perspective, key elements of a solid integration strategy are API gateway, an API gateway or API management solution for covering all the vertical integration challenges. We need some kind of event hub solution for dealing with horizontal integration challenges, also with IoT challenges. So we need a distributed highly available and high performant event hub solutions like Kafka or OCI streaming. Yeah, then we need some sort of lightweight ESB solution. And also for implementing the cloud-based integration platform, something like a iPaaS platform, so integration platform as a service, which provides a rich set of already predefined SaaS connectors. And one key thing is that we need a proper insight into the integration services we build. So observability is really key when implementing integration solutions, and we should also be aware of errors that occur in a integration architecture. So we don't have this, or we don't have this big gray box in the middle, but we have a more flexible architecture built on upon API gateway, event hub, maybe containerized implementation solutions, and also maybe functions at some point. And in this slide, I just started to think which services do we have today in the Oracle Cloud, and the Oracle Cloud offering is still growing. But what do we have from today's perspective to cover all those issues? I don't want to go over each and every service now in detail, because within the next slides we go into some use cases or scenarios that I see in the integration space that are always present. So, and there we will also look into some tools and the combination of those services for implementing or for addressing the challenges in those scenarios. So how can integration be implemented in the Oracle Cloud? So we have, as I said, a multi-dimensional and multi-layered problems. So we need to cover vertical integration by implementing API-led integrations. Then we have something like event-based integrations. Here we have to deal with cross-domain integrations and also inter-domain integrations, where we can differentiate and where we have also different requirements. And so we can also implement those requirements in a different way. Then the classical use case that we had before is closed apps or commercial off-the-shelf solution integrations. So integrating a Oracle e-business suite with a SAP system, for example. Then we have data ingestion, so in the sense of change data capture, which is a more data integration scenario. And I didn't mention that directly, but also from my perspective today, we cannot clearly differentiate data integration and system integration, because those are no longer disjoint disciplines anymore, right? And this is why I also have this scenario here. And last but not least, we have this SaaS integration case. So from a vertical API-led integration perspective, what is key is that we have a user-centric API design, and to achieve that, we need to introduce a API-first way of implementing API services, right? And we need also a proper governance and a governance strategy to implement more sophisticated use cases like monetization. Because when I wanted to expose my services to the outside world, and I have customers, I have partners that consume my APIs, maybe I wanted to monetize that. So I wanted to charge them for using my API for using my data, right? This is a new business model. So because it's a product, I also need to really care about, or really focus on this product. So it needs a good usability. You can see a API like a wireframe for a UI. So to give the consumer an idea how to use an API, and you need to do that so that the consumer can hardly misuse your API. And ideally, your API gateway that you use to expose your APIs supports a flexible deployment model so that you can cover your hybrid integration scenarios, so that your API gateway is capable to run into the cloud and also on premise. What does this mean? Services for implementing those solutions on OCI are Oracle Web Application Firewall, as we see here, then also the Oracle OCI API Gateway. And to implement business service as well as the integration services, you can use containerized applications that are deployed to Oracle Kubernetes Cloud Service. And for some use cases, you can also use Oracle functions to have a more efficient resource usage. Patterns that are very important in that respect are API gateway, backend for frontend, API composition, and we see this API composition here. Let's imagine we have a mobile device here, which needs to call out to two business services. This might become chatty, because for mobile applications you maybe need a different API implementation than for a web-based interface, because you need less information, because a mobile device had less space than a web-based interface. So we have some kind of composition service to combine the results from two queries to two different services. On the horizontal integration layer, you are mainly focusing on an event-based communication, at least for cross-domain communication. And when we talk about domains, we mean business domains, right? So also in the sense of microservices, we have different business domains talking to each other, and for that we're using events. And events for me are like APIs. So first of all, you need to start with defining your event structures so that the consumer and the producer are clear about the content of a certain event. For inter-domain communication, you might use more optimized protocols like gRPC. So you also can think of use a synchronous communication between two servers within the same domain. And services from the OCI space, which you can use here, is for implementing your solutions, your integration solutions in a containerized way. Again, you have OKE in place, so Oracle Kubernetes Cloud, and OCI streaming as an event hub. So we can see here the business domains, which are communicating each other using the event hub. And within a certain business domain, so here this integration service talks to another business service, we can also leverage a synchronous communication. So by using also a pattern like service mesh here to be to handle things like resiliency, because even if your two services are in the same domain, there is network between them, and network is always unreliable. And so you need to ensure that the communication still works and is solid and reliable, the connectivity, right? From the connectivity perspective. So closed apps integration, this is the classic integration scenario we implemented for a long time. And for those, we can leverage frameworks like Apache Camel, for example, which is a lightweight ESB implementation, which comes with a rich set of components to connect different systems which is with each other. So I think Camel has about 300 plus components, which is great for an open source solution at some point. And if the customers already have an SOA suite in place, maybe you can also use tools like Oracle SOA Suite or Oracle OSB, because those tools are not that bad, but for some use cases, they are no longer the first choice from my perspective, right? And from an implementation perspective, you combine the ideas from the vertical and from the horizontal scenario, which I've shown before. So if you have external consumers which wanted to consume information from a certain commercial off-the-shelf application within your data center, you expose an API. If you wanted to integrate two commercial off-the-shelf solutions, you can do that in a event-based way if it is cross-domain, as it is depicted here. And maybe if you have some kind of batch job, maybe you have, imagine you have OCR scenario where you scan your invoices, something like that, and put those invoices in an OCI object storage bucket, and then a respective event is thrown from the OCI infrastructure, which you can use to kick off a Oracle function, which then informs a certain commercial off-the-shelf solution. Hey, there is a new invoice, please import it to the system. This could also be a scenario which can be implemented more efficient using this serverless approach than having a container running all the time, waiting for invoices which may come in only once a month or once a day or something like that. So I have a lot of services here integrated from the Oracle Cloud space. So web application firewall, API gateway, OKE, functions, and also streaming. So to address really complex use cases. Data ingestion, I already mentioned. So is a specific use case from the data, is a specific data integration where you have to deal with a huge amount of change data, which comes from a database, for example. So when I insert data to a certain database, and those changes are relevant for my systems, then I can establish services like Oracle Golden Gate Cloud Service to capture this change data and push it to an Event Hub solution. And then I have the respective systems which are interested in those changes and which can directly consume the data, transform it to the format which is needed, and insert it to the commercial off-the-shelf solution. And if I have a cloud native solution, then maybe I have my cloud native adapter or my integration logic implemented within this cloud native application already, right? So this is the data ingestion use case. And last but not least, I have the cloud or the SaaS integration use case. And here I need to distinguish between cloud to cloud integration and cloud to on-prem integration. The cloud to cloud integration is fairly easier because you just need to integrate your SaaS applications with each other using your iPaaS platform. And usually the iPaaS platform has already the respective adapters in place so that you do not need to care about the connectivity as such. Just input your credentials, choose your operations, data objects, then implement your transformation, and that's it. But if you do go the cloud to on-prem integration way, this might be more complex because you need to also take into account that you need to go to a company's firewall, that you need to go through the DMZ and all that kind of stuff. So you really need to care about your security here. And Oracle Integration Cloud, which is the integration platform as a service, provides, for example, an connectivity agent which you can deploy in your DMZ, which then connects your iPaaS platform to your on-prem solution. On the other hand, you can also go with the approach that you expose your on-prem services with an on-prem API exposure, and then use your services and consume your services using the API gateway from your cloud-based integration, which from my perspective is the preferred way, because then you had also the insights who is consuming your APIs, your services, and you also satisfy this observability aspect of integration solutions. So basically, now we come to a summary. First of all, I wanted to say that not everything we've done so far was bad, right? Because the solutions we built solved the problems that should be solved. But now we have new requirements, we have new challenges to tackle, and so we need to maybe rethink what we've done so far, to be more flexible, to be more agile, and to generate business value. So we need to think of how we can, instead of replace the old with the new, which is not a good idea and which is also not in the sense of provide business value, we need to find a way how to combine the old and the new world. And that's one of the key messages I wanted to transport here, right? Because as I said, you cannot go the Big Bang way and replace everything which is already there. You need a proper migration strategy and to modernize everything. So modernization is key in this approach. And when you modernize, you should do it iteratively, so incremental approach at this point. And the good message is also the technology is evolving, but what is not evolving, what is constant, are the patterns we are using. Maybe there are new patterns we can leverage, implemented with new technologies, but the patterns we had 10, 15, 20 years ago are still valid. And so this is the good news. And as I said, integration is complex and more relevant than ever in this hybrid multi-cloud world. So we should be aware of that when we build new solutions. And we should also be aware of that integration is key for the new concepts which are around, that are also key for moving from a project, from project-oriented enterprise to a product-oriented enterprise. And this is the way where we wanted to get to. This is also what I tell my customers. And so also the pandemic situation we have today requires us to act in that way. So with that, I'm done. I hope it was interesting. And now I'm open for questions.
Thank you so much. It was an excellent presentation. Let me check if there's any questions. I cannot see question coming by the Q&A, but I want to let everybody know that the replay of the presentation will be available in the conference for 2 weeks. That means you will be able to watch the session and re-see as many times you want for 2 weeks. And you can ask it on the replay page questions at any moment for Sven, and Sven will be basically notified every time a question is done, and he will be able to reply on his convenience. I just saw a message of congratulations for the session. That was an excellent presentation from Sven. And that's all that we get, Sven, for the moment.
Thank you so much. It was great to be part of this event.
Now, thank you so much. It was a privilege to have you Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with the community, and apologies again for the delay for the issue with the other moderator.
No problem.
Thank you so much. No worries. And have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.